My name is Stella, and at 28 years old, I thought I had everything figured out. Standing in my parents' backyard that 4th of July watching Marcus pull me aside, while my sister Chloe laughed with our cousins, I never imagined the next words out of his mouth would shatter my entire world. "You're not wife material," he said, right before walking away and dropping to one knee in front of my sister. Before I share how I destroyed them both, tell me where you're watching from today. If you've ever been betrayed by family, please subscribe and like this video. Trust me, what happened next will leave you speechless. 3 years ago, I met Marcus at a law firm networking event in downtown Manhattan. I was there representing my company's marketing division, wearing my best navy dress and trying not to spill wine on potential clients. He approached me near the dessert table, making some joke about how the tiramisu looked like it had seen better days. His smile was perfect, his suit expensive, and when he handed me his business card, Junior Partner was printed in elegant gold letters beneath his name. Our first date happened 1 week later at a small Italian restaurant in Tribeca. He ordered for both of us in flawless Italian, told stories about his semester abroad in Rome, and when he walked me home, he asked permission before kissing me goodnight. Everything about him seemed thoughtful, calculated in the best way, like he had been planning to meet someone like me his whole life. The early months were intoxicating. Weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard where we walked along private beaches and he taught me to sail. Dinner parties with his colleagues where he would proudly introduce me as the brilliant marketing director who was revolutionizing her firm's digital presence. He remembered everything I told him, from my favorite coffee order, vanilla latte with an extra shot, to the story about breaking my arm falling off a swing when I was 7. Every Friday, without fail, fresh peonies would arrive at my office with a note that simply said, "Thinking of you." My younger sister Chloe had always been the golden child in our family. 2 years younger, but somehow always 2 steps ahead in my parents' eyes. When I graduated cum laude from Boston University, she got into Harvard Medical School. When I landed my first real job, she was already shadowing at Mass General. At every family gathering, the conversation inevitably turned to Chloe's latest achievement, while my career in marketing was dismissed as playing with social media all day. The competition between us started early. When I was 13 and had my first boyfriend, Tommy, from algebra class, Chloe suddenly developed an interest in mathematics and needed his tutoring. When I was accepted to study abroad in London during college, she applied to the same program and got a full scholarship. Every achievement I earned, she found a way to eclipse. Every relationship I valued, she found a way to insert herself. But Marcus was different. He barely acknowledged her existence at first, focusing all his attention on me during family dinners. I remember feeling victorious when he politely declined her invitation to review her medical school application essays, saying he specialized in corporate law, not academic writing. For once, something was purely mine. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. 6 months ago, his phone started living face down on every surface. When notifications came through, he would glance quickly and flip it back over, claiming it was just work emails that could wait. The late meetings increased from once a week to 3 or 4 times. His secretary started giving me sympathetic looks when I stopped by his office with surprise lunch deliveries, only to find he was in another urgent client meeting. Chloe's visits to the city became more frequent. She claimed the medical library at Columbia had better resources than Harvard's, which made no sense, but I didn't question it. She would text asking if she could crash at my apartment, arriving with expensive wine and stories about terrible dates with boring medical students. Marcus would always happen to be working from home those days, setting up his laptop at my dining table while Chloe studied on the couch. The weekend before the BBQ, Marcus suggested we should take things slow. We were sitting at our favorite brunch spot in Park Slope, and he pushed his eggs Benedict around his plate while explaining that he wanted to be absolutely certain about our future. "Marriage is permanent," he said, "and I want to make sure we're both ready for that level of commitment." I nodded understanding, even as something cold settled in my stomach. My mother called 3 times that week to confirm I was bringing Marcus to the 4th of July BBQ. "Your father wants to talk to him about investment opportunities," she said, "and Aunt Martha is dying to see your ring." I hadn't told her about the taking things slow conversation. Instead, I promised we would both be there and volunteered to make my grandmother's famous potato salad. The morning of the BBQ, I stood in my bedroom trying on different sundresses. The yellow one made me look washed out. The blue one was too casual. I finally settled on a coral dress with tiny white flowers, the one Marcus had complimented months ago during a weekend in the Hamptons. I curled my hair, applied waterproof mascara just in case the day got emotional, and drove to Connecticut feeling cautiously optimistic. I arrived early to help with set-up stringing lights across the backyard, while my father tested the new grill he had bought specifically for this occasion. The house looked perfect white colonial with black shutters, American flags waving from the porch. The yard transformed into a picture-perfect celebration space. Mom had ordered enough food to feed twice the number of guests expected, and the drinks table groaned under the weight of craft beers, imported wines, and her signature sangria. Marcus texted that he was running late, caught in traffic on 95. I saved him a spot at the picnic table, defending it against cousins and their children while helping Mom arrange the dessert table. The irony wasn't lost on me later, how I spent that time making everything perfect for him, ensuring his comfort at what would become my most humiliating moment. By 2 in the afternoon, the backyard was packed with family from across New England. My aunts from Boston had arrived in a convoy bringing enough side dishes to supplement Mom's already excessive spread. Uncle Robert from Providence was holding court by the grill, sharing stock market tips with anyone who would listen. The younger cousins ran through the sprinklers while their parents sipped beer and caught up on a year's worth of gossip. I was everywhere at once, making sure the drinks stayed cold, the food stayed covered, and Great Aunt Eleanor had a chair in the shade. This was my role at family gatherings, the organizer, the one who kept everything running smoothly while Chloe held court with stories from the hospital. I had just finished refreshing the ice buckets when Marcus finally arrived. He parked his BMW at the end of the driveway and walked up slowly, checking his phone with every other step. No kiss hello, no apology for being late. Just a brief nod in my direction before grabbing a beer and joining my father's golf buddies near the pool. I told myself he was tired from the drive, that he would warm up once he had a drink and some food. Chloe made her entrance an hour later, and even I had to admit she looked stunning. She wore a white linen dress that should have been completely inappropriate for a BBQ, but somehow looked effortless on her. Her hair was professionally blown out, her makeup flawless despite the heat, and she carried a bottle of champagne that probably cost more than my entire outfit. "Who wears white to a BBQ, cousin?" Amy whispered to me, unless they're trying to make a statement. I laughed it off, but something prickled at the back of my neck as I watched Chloe navigate the crowd, stopping to kiss cheeks and distribute hugs like she was working a campaign event. When she finally reached Marcus, they shared a look that lasted a beat too long. The afternoon progressed with forced normalcy. I served food, refilled drinks, and deflected questions about wedding plans with practiced ease. "Marcus and I aren't in a rush," I told Aunt Martha. "We're focusing on our careers right now," I assured Cousin Jennifer. Each lie came easier than the last, even as I watched him avoid me with surgical precision. Around 4 o'clock, Marcus appeared at my elbow while I was arranging sparklers for the kids. "We need to talk," he said, and led me away from the party toward the old garden shed where my father kept his tools. My heart lifted for a moment, thinking maybe he had planned something special. Maybe the ring was hidden among the rakes and shovels. Instead, he leaned against the shed and delivered his verdict with the casual cruelty of someone canceling dinner plans. "Stella, you're an amazing woman, but you're not wife material. You're too focused on your career, too independent, too modern in your thinking. I need someone who understands that family comes first, someone nurturing and traditional. You're just not that person." I stood there, my hand still clutching a bundle of sparklers, trying to process his words. 3 years of my life reduced to a LinkedIn profile he no longer wanted to endorse. Before I could form a response, he was already walking back toward the party, leaving me standing alone by the shed like discarded garden equipment. The next few minutes passed in a blur. I saw him grab a champagne flute and tap it with a spoon, the universal signal for a toast. The crowd gathered, forming a semicircle around him, everyone eager to hear what the successful lawyer had to say. I remained frozen by the shed, close enough to hear, but far enough to feel completely outside the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends," he began, his courtroom voice carrying across the yard. "I came here today with a special purpose. You all know me as Stella's boyfriend, but life has a way of surprising us, of showing us paths we never expected to take." He paused for dramatic effect, and I saw Chloe move closer to the center of the circle, her hand pressed to her chest in practiced surprise. "Love isn't something we choose," Marcus continued. "It chooses us. And sometimes it leads us to unexpected places, to people who complete us in ways we never imagined possible." Then, in one fluid motion that must have been rehearsed, he dropped to one knee in front of my sister. "Chloe Marie Henderson, you are everything I never knew I needed. Your compassion, your dedication to helping others, your understanding of what really matters in life. Will you marry me?" The ring he produced caught the late afternoon sun, sending rainbow sparkles across the stunned faces of our family. Later I would learn it was cubic zirconia, but in that moment it might as well have been the Hope Diamond for the reaction it generated. Chloe gasped, her hands flying to her face in shock that would have earned her an Oscar if anyone had been paying attention to the performance aspects. "Yes," she cried. "Yes, of course, yes." The family erupted in celebration. Champagne appeared from nowhere. Someone started playing music from a Bluetooth speaker, and my mother actually literally ran to embrace her newly engaged daughter. My father popped a bottle of champagne he must have been saving for a special occasion, spraying it over the happy couple like they had just won the World Series. I stood by the shed, invisible, watching my family celebrate my humiliation. Only Aunt Martha seemed to notice me, her face crumpling with sympathy as she mouthed the words, "I'm so sorry," from across the yard. But she didn't come over, didn't break from the circle of joy to offer comfort. No one did. The next hour was torture disguised as celebration. Someone decided we needed photos to commemorate the occasion, and somehow I ended up being the photographer, capturing image after image of my sister's triumph. Marcus and Chloe kissing, check. The ring on her finger, check. The two of them surrounded by beaming relatives, check. Each click of the camera, another small death. Between photos, I overheard Chloe telling our cousins her version of events. "We tried so hard to fight it," she said, her voice dripping with false anguish. "But when you know, you know. Love doesn't follow rules or respect boundaries. It just happens." The other women cooed sympathetically, as if she and Marcus were victims of cosmic forces beyond their control. My mother pulled me aside as the sun began to set, her face glowing with happiness that had nothing to do with me. "Isn't this wonderful?" she gushed. "Your sister is finally getting married. You'll be her maid of honor, of course. And don't worry, sweetie, you'll find someone too. Maybe one of Marcus's lawyer friends." I nodded, not trusting my voice, and excused myself to get more ice from the garage freezer. I stood there for 5 minutes, letting the cold air wash over me before returning to serve drinks to people toasting my